Yeah, well. Okay, so thank you very much, Maeda Sensei. Thank you very much. So I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker for today. It's not as interesting as the talk that was just given, but yeah, I'd like to just talk about Brent. I'll do my best. So Brent Warner, he's a professor at Irvine Valley College in California, where he teaches ESL and works extensively with faculty on integrating technology in language education. Over the past decade, Brent has become widely recognized for his work in educational technology for language learning, particularly in areas such as artificial intelligence, AI literacy for teachers, technology-enhanced writing instruction, gamification AI chatbots, and digital tools for multilingual learners. He's also the co-host of a podcast for ESL teachers, which is called the DIESOL Podcast, and he has a bunch of stickers up here, which I'm sure you can take later for a bit of branding. And of course, subscribe to that too. He explores the intersection of technology and pedagogy and language teaching on the podcast. Brent, very quickly actually, one of the pioneers, I guess, here for recognizing the impact of AI on language education. And since the release of tools like ChatGPT, he has been at the forefront of helping teachers navigate the possibilities of AI, the challenges of academic integrity, and the shifting role of teachers in AI-supported classrooms. Today, he's going to be talking about the anchor and the sail, and I'll leave the rest of the talk for Brent to describe what this actually means. So everyone, please give Brent a warm round of applause.
Thank you. I think this is working, so awesome, thank you. All right, hello everybody, thank you so much, and thank you Call for having me, really appreciate it, and thank you all for joining. We're going to get into this. I have multiple technologies trying to get these screens and everything going together, so hopefully it works okay. If there are any problems, just shout out. If we're all kind of technology people, we know as soon as you try and do anything, it goes wrong, right? And so, fingers crossed, but here we go. We're going to get into it. So, do I have my remote? Maybe not. Just a moment. I did not start drinking yet. One more hour and you guys can all, you can drink as you like. So, all right, so we're going to be talking about this idea of the anchor and the sail. And so we have this I always use this analogy that we're talking about when we're dealing with technology and we're dealing with the future world, especially with all the AI conversations, that we're really in the fog, right? We have a sense of where we want to go. We're trying to get to some direction, but we don't know exactly how we're going to get there because we can only see so far in front of us until we have to start making changes in our directions and make adjustments and all of those things. That's okay. We do end up getting to where we're trying to go to, and so today we have to kind of recognize that we are living in the fog, and anyone who tells you that they know what's going to be coming next with the AI conversation or whatever else is going on, they're lying to you. Or perhaps they're very confident in their own ideas and they believe what they're saying, but things are changing every single day, right? And so we kind of want to take a look at this idea that tools themselves don't prevail or fail, right? We're really looking at the navigation, how we're using them, how we're trying to understand the purposes of those different tools. Because for people like us, we like exploring with all of the technology. We like kind of saying like, okay, what's this shiny new thing? What's going to happen with it? And we can have a lot of fun with them, but we do, of course, also have to be thoughtful with our use of these different tools. So it is working. Okay. How many people in your syllabus, you wrote down an AI policy and you said, hey, I am sure this is going to work really well for me for the entire next school year? All right. We have a few very confident people. Anybody in here write a policy and then say, uh-oh, 2 weeks later things have changed, I have to make some adjustments, I have to make some updates to it, right? Yeah, we're seeing some of that too, right? 24 hours, here's this is Charlie, right? It changes so quickly, right? We have a hard time really keeping up with everything. I was just talking to Jeff over here, and we were talking about this idea that you cannot keep up with everything. There is just no way, right? You're going to need to focus in on one or two things that you want to do and that you want to work with your students. as you're dealing with your language learning issues. Don't try and overwhelm yourselves, right? It is way too much. It is too many people's full-time jobs to try and stay on top of all the technology. And so don't stress yourself out about that. But today we're going to be talking about a few things. We're going to be talking about the anchor. We're going to be talking about the sail. So the anchor is, how are we anchoring our teaching? How are we kind of making sure that we are stopping where we need to stop, think about things, move through, be thoughtful with our ideas. The sail is then, how are we going to move forward, make our moves, and try to push into the next realm of education. And then we do that all by understanding that we have a North Star, right? What is the thing that we're actually aiming towards, and how are we navigating that path? So before we get into all of that, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the issues that are going on in the world of AI. The first is we're in a squall, right? We're in a storm right now. All of these things, as I mentioned before, they're changing so quickly. They're really, really hard to keep on top of. New technology, new tools. Half the people in here, you probably put in your proposals, and then guess what? That tool's not there by the time you're actually ready to do your presentation. I saw that happen in 3 or 4 sessions earlier today. They change on you, they make updates on you, they don't work in the way that they worked 2 days ago. And then also, schools are far behind, right? Schools are just really, really far behind, and they don't really know what's going on. They're trying to make up ideas that a lot of teachers had already been dealing with and talking about 2 years ago, 3 years ago, right? And we're trying to figure those things out. So we have to deal with that. This group may be a little bit different, but most teachers are far behind students, right? And so we've got this huge gap, right? We've got schools back here, then we've got our teachers, then we've got our students leading the front or just exploring, but they don't necessarily always know what they're doing, or they're not always making fully responsible choices. So we've also got these crosswinds. The crosswinds are, one, we've got schools, again, telling us, all right, be innovative. Make sure that you're really exploring these things. Here's some money to go figure out what's, maybe, right? Figure out how to use these things, figure out how to work with them with your students, right? Most of the people here were hopefully given a grant from your school or from your project to be able to be here. So go innovate. Cool. And then stop students from cheating with AI. It's like, wait, hold on a second. We have a conflicting idea here, right? Because if we are teachers, we need to be teaching our students to be exploring that innovation, right? And so when we jump right in and say, hold on a second, we can't have our students using AI because they're going to cheat with it. Well, one, what message are you sending to your students, right? It's not really the appropriate way if we're living in a world where we're trying to explore, where we're trying to figure out what the next thing means. We need to take the students along with us to figure out how to do all of that. And so we have to deal with where these places are actually becoming conflicts for us, and we're blown in 2 different directions as we're dealing with that. One of my favorite things about EdTech is we always say, oh, EdTech, it's wonderful, it's gonna save you time. Right. Yeah, sure. I mean, so the thing about EdTech is it can save you time if you are being thoughtful, repetitive, and productive with it. But everyone in this room knows as soon as you get that saved time, the vacuum fills, right? And the next thing comes right in, and you are not saving any more time. And we're often told, okay, well, now you have all this free time, do more work, do more things, right? And so the time is it's a false way to present what EdTech can do for us and for our students. And I just want to be a little bit careful about that when we're talking about it. It's not to say that we can't save time. We can. Obviously, I saw some of the presentations today where people were talking about, this is something that would have taken me 6 months to do, and I got it done in 2 or 3 days. Those are really wonderful things, but we have to be conscientious about it. Our sailors are our students. We are on the ship, and our students are on the ship with us. We cannot treat this as something that we are doing and then presenting to our students. We need to have those open conversations with them and say, hey, what are you guys doing? Okay, let's work together on figuring out how we're working through these ideas, right? And that's not necessarily just like, oh, I'm doing it because I'm doing a study. It's doing it because that is the benefit to the students. That's why they are in school, is to have a full learning experience where they're able to come through and be on the ship together with you, going towards your shared goal, ideally. The siren. We'll talk about this a little bit more in depth a little bit later. Be careful. The siren is singing you a song, and the siren knows your name, and the siren is trying to pull you towards the rocks, right? We're going to get into this a little bit more. There are lots of little parts around this conversation here that we really have to be careful about, especially for those of us who are gung-ho explorers. Let's go figure it out. Let's go see everything that we want to see, because this is something that can create a lot of problems if we're not really careful. Okay, so let's start talking about the anchor, some of the areas where we might want to stop and slow down. Now remember that when you're sailing and you're going across the sea, you're not really just trying to stop, right? That's not really your goal. But there are times when you have to pause and readjust and make changes and make sure that you're doing the things that you're really trying to do. So we're going to talk about a few of those possible things that might be just worth considering. Not all totally new ideas, but we need to keep ourselves refreshed on some of these. So the first thing is process over product. NotebookLM, Gemini, ChatGPT, blah, 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 right? All of these things are cool, they're fun, of course, but we are now dealing with a totally different world for our students. We all came up with an educational system where whatever you showed your teacher at the end, that was your work. Or possibly you paid somebody to do it for you. But for the most part, you were kind of guaranteed that someone went ahead and did that work, right? Now we are in a world where that product means nothing. I want to be clear on that. It really does mean nothing. And it's just a piece of paper at the end of some work. Now, it's meant to be a showing of the work and a showing of the understanding that we're dealing with. But what we need to do now, especially in the world of AI, is we need to start looking at, hold on a second, what is this process? How do I walk the students all the way through? And our favorite thing for us is we like these ideas. And I saw several presentations on this, and I'm not criticizing any of these. I do love it, but it's easy to want to say, hey, we're going to get a quick grade on this thing. We're going to be able to have AI grade this paper, and it'll be done for us. It just doesn't matter, right? If you're doing that Ferris Bueller game, right? For those of you who have seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? The tape recorders, the tape recorders, the tape recorders. Eventually, the teacher disappears, and the tape recorder, the teacher is playing the tape. The students are all recording it, and nobody is interacting with each other at all. What world are we living in? What is this? What are we doing in education if we're not really talking about the idea of what are our students doing here? Why are they coming to school? And this is going to have to be a generational change. This is not something any of us are going to fix today, tomorrow, anything like that. We're going to be looking at it for quite a while, and we're going to have to start from younger students, from kindergarten on up, and really training them to understand what the value of education is and why we have to deal with this process, because what we're talking about here is the idea of productive friction. Has anybody played around with that idea a little bit? When you are doing something that is a little bit harder, when you're doing something that's a challenge to you, that's where the real value of an education and learning things is. I have this joke about the AI thing is like, well, okay, you can get your essay written. My main classes that I teach are academic writing classes back in California. And so it's like, well, you can get your essay done very quickly, sure, but did you learn anything in that process? How did you do the work to get through all of this? And so I use this analogy, well, if you sit next to a baseball pitching machine, of course, Ohtani, right? And so we always talk about Ohtani in Los Angeles and all of these. And so we say, well, if Ohtani just ended up sitting there and pushing a pitching machine and it was throwing perfect pitches every single time, does that make Ohtani a great pitcher? Or does it make him a good button pusher? And of course, Ohtani's a great example because he's incredibly dedicated to his craft and to his work, and we can really see how much time and effort he puts into everything. And I always joke on Japanese television, we come here and it's like 2 hours of news segment of Ohtani walked across the parking lot. What do you think he was talking about? What do you think he was going to do after that? It's like, okay, so he is an incredible example of someone who really focuses on this idea of understanding that doing that process then creates a good product. It's not the end game, it's the build all the way through to it. So this is my process that I work through for my students in my writing classes. We can take a look through it here. Start here at the bottom. So we have our students, they're writing their papers, inside of my class, whatever the topic is, whatever we're working on. We begin with them writing their own paper. So they start, and then I bring it over here. So my process here is that I have them turn all in their papers, and then I grab 1 or 2 sample papers and I project it in front of the class. And we can go anonymous, or we can share their names. I ask them beforehand. If they don't want their name on it, then I'll just cut their name out, and it's fine. But we'll put up their paper, and we'll talk as a class through the whole conversation. Say, hey, okay, what's going on? What is your process for dealing with this? Now, before AI, it would jump straight around, but I added in AI here. I personally use Brisk. I don't know is Brisk popular in Japan at all, or no? Not so much. Brisk is very cool, so it ties into Google Docs, and you kind of click a button and you can do these bulk. So if you've got all of your students turning in your papers on Google Docs, you can click a button, do a bulk reading, you can give it your rubric and all of your ideas, and then it will give them feedback based on how you want it to give them feedback. And Brisk is pretty ethical about this because they will not automatically post. You have to choose to post the comments on it afterwards. So you can still look at it, you can make adjustments to all the AI comments before you post it in. So I tell my students very clearly, I say, hey, you're gonna get this AI feedback. This is not me. And by the way, please be transparent at all time with your students, right? You have to tell them what you're doing and when you're using these things, because you want them to be able to feel honest and safe in telling you when they're using it as well, right? If you're sneaky and trying to get away with using AI so that you can save a little time, they're gonna do the same thing, right? So open up that conversation. I tell them, hey, this is not me. Remember, it's not me. As they get to know me more over the semester, they kind of get a sense, they're like, oh, I like this feedback, I don't like this feedback. And I tell them to critique it, right? So they'll look at the feedback that comes on there, and they will then say, I agree with this, or I disagree with this, and why. You could use a tool like Brisk. I was looking at Brian Gallagher's poster. Did Brian walk out the door? I was looking at his poster session. He's got a cool thing going on, so like an option like that would be really good too. So however you want to do something like that. But again, it's involving students in the process of learning all of that. So then from there, they get their first round of work, and it goes to peer-reviewed groups. All of my students then, they're sharing their papers with each other, they pass it around, they're working through, giving each other feedback. I have a particular setup, so I have specific goals. So first we do a round of grammar, then we do a round of structure, then we do a round of content, big picture ideas, and they kind of each look at it from one way. And then they are looking at all other people's work, and they're getting their work looked at by their classmates, and so they're going through this process of really understanding what works and what doesn't work for everything. This is finally where it comes to me, right? So it's been turned in and given back and turned in and given back, and they've been working on this process all the way through, and the first time that I look at it is after all of that. And then their papers are much, much stronger through that process. So before I started doing this, it was like, as you know, what the first papers look like when they come in. And so I was able to really build that process, and then they're able to work through the entire system. And then here you can see that at this point it loops back just to me and the student, so then it's a back and forth one-on-one conversation between me and the students, and it becomes a private work where they are working together with me to be able to figure out what's going on for their papers and for their writing. So we'll talk just a second. I'll keep this one pretty quick here, but the acquisition loop, just keeping in mind the general pedagogy of language acquisition and what it looks like. So we've got our input, then we've got our noticing, we've got our output, and then we've got our feedback, right? So Krashen, Schmidt, Swain, Long, right? All of the fun research that has gone into all of these things. But this is a loop, right? And so students are given something, they're asked to observe, notice, see what's happening, what they can see and what they can find, create something for that. Then they give them feedback, or the teacher gives them feedback, and then they can use that as their new loop beginning, which they are now using as their new level of input. That's how language acquisition works, right? It just goes in a cycle, end and end and end. And then they make little improvements, and we keep on going up all the way through. Assess learning, not competence. Or sorry, not compliance, not competence. Sure. So assess learning, not compliance. This one might be a little bit tricky for some of us. Moving to a system where we're talking about, again, if that end product doesn't really mean anything, then how are we actually assessing the learning? What does that actually look like, right? And so compliance is, did you finish all of the little things that I showed you, that I said to do, right? Did you do my little rules that are important to me for whatever reason it is? That might be fine, but it doesn't matter, right? Are we seeing what they're able to learn? Are we able to see what's going on with all of their work? So there's a big movement going on in the States. And I don't think it's happening quite as much in Japan right now, but you might have heard of the ungrading movement. Some of you might have explored with that a little bit, right, where you're basically removing grades and you're talking about, let's talk about a system of feedback where you and I work together to understand what's going on with your learning, not to get an A- or whatever it is on a paper. You and I are spending a lot more time now together. When I'm working with my students every day, in and out, and we're talking to each other and we're seeing what's going on, that is a lot more work for me than it is to say, okay, good job, A-, here you go. And they will never look at it again. How many times, by the way, notice how many of these LMSs, they don't even have a system in place to guarantee that students are checking feedback before they look at the grade. What a failure of these systems to not build it. There's tons of research. There's research going all the way back. So Joe Feldman is on grading for equity and his whole process on how to make that happen. All the way back in 1988, that was Ruth Butler. She talked about this idea of enhancing and undermining intrinsic motivation, where she showed way back then, students who get feedback do significantly better than students who get grades. 1988. We've known that. Do we do it? So how do you make these moves? Now, I know a lot of people in this room are going, well, the Japanese system, hold on a second, you can't talk about that. That's not really the Japanese way. It is the Japanese way. If you know this idea, shokunin, oyakata deshi, right? The craftsman. When you go to become a master sushi chef, you don't get letter grades from the oyakata. You sit and you work with them. And I will grant you there are some little gaps in here because it is quite strict. But you can see the process when you do things like mastery over work. Traditional Japanese ways of doing this is not about letter grades. It is about showing that you understand how to do this work. The Japanese system can make those changes if they really wanted to. Wanting to is the problem, right? Because we have this output problem and we say, well, we just need to do mass work and figure out all these things. But at the same time, we are now in a pinch because guess what? We have this AI problem, which is, okay, now I'm just giving you all of this stuff, whatever's going on, and we don't know. Have you mastered the work? Have you not? Okay, so we're going to shift gears a little bit here, have a little bit of fun. So those are some of the things that you want to think about when you're kind of basing yourself and making sure that you're grounded with the conversation. So then we move forward into the sale, a little bit of exploration, a little bit of figuring out what's going on. So we're going to go into role play roulette. Here, sorry, where's my mouse? Just a moment. Okay. Sorry, I can't see much here. Okay. Wheel of Names. Has anybody ever used Wheel of Names before? We got a few people in here, right? Not an AI tool. You don't need to use AI for everything that you do, you guys. I'll show myself out. I am a big fan of single-use, one-focus tools. AI is cool, it's got its own purposes, and we'll talk about that, of course, in a little bit here, but you can use lots of different tools inside of here. So we're gonna look at role play roulette here. Wheel of Names is super cool because look what you can do. You can put in icons into the wheel instead of words and pictures and names and all of these things. So normally this is meant to like do a lottery and we'll pick someone's name and cool, right? But you can put in these icons in here, and icons are incredibly powerful, right? Especially for language teaching. You want to take a look at the idea of using more icons because they carry meanings behind them that might not be the same for every single person, but we have a big understanding without having to necessarily explicitly teach everything up front. So we can implicitly know what's going on with some of these pictures. So with a game like this, you can combine it. You can say, hey, okay, you're gonna pick a role and we're gonna give you a scenario. And we're gonna do this right now for in a moment. I'm gonna have you guys play. So I'm gonna spin the wheel. You're gonna grab a partner next to you, nearby you. One of you will play the character. I'll spin it twice. I'll give you 2 characters. And then one of you is going, and then you're gonna talk about the scenario inside of here. So let's give it a try, see how it goes. Where's my mouse? All right. So one of you will choose student A, whoever student A is, okay? You're gonna figure out, decide quickly who you are. Student A is this, whatever that is to you, okay? Student B is all right, this, whatever that is to you, okay? Again, you might have different ideas, so you can talk it over. And here is the scenario I want you guys to discuss that you are in. So let's take a look at it. It says, a coworker is doing something dangerous and you must stop them. All right, 2 minutes, give a chat to each other, see what you come up with. Have a conversation, get in your roles. I got it. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, take as many as you like. All right. How'd you guys do? Okay. So let's take a look at this. Thank you, Brian. So one, notice how quickly everybody jumped into this, right? There was no pause, there was no waiting around. The effective filter is dropped because you don't have to make any decisions to jump into this activity, right? You're already told what to do, and you already have a sense of what you're thinking about things quickly with the icons. With a fairly simple scenario, again, depending on your students' levels, you can play around with what you want to put in something like that, but you can kind of give them something very quick to work with. And notice here, the tech is not the thing, right? It's engaging. It gets people looking at it and going, oh, cool, what's going on? It's colorful, it's pretty, it grabs their attention, but it's not the pedagogy itself. What I'm looking for is, did you get the input? You have these things that you're looking at. What did you notice? What's happening? What's happening inside of here? What are we seeing with those ideas? Then what is your output? You're creating it immediately. Between the two of you, you're giving each other feedback, right? Sorry, in a class this big, I'm going to have a hard time going around and listening to every person's ideas, but the teacher too would be walking around and checking out and going, okay, this is working, this is not working, etc. So you have full opportunities to use simple technology. It doesn't have to be very fancy to make things work for your classes. Now we can have a lot of fun with these things, but they're also really productive. They make a difference for the student. And so you want to play around with those ideas as we're going. Now, next, I'm going to talk a little bit about the infinite context bot. Some of you had similar types of activities in some of the sessions that I went to here before. We'll talk about it in a moment. But the infinite context bot is basically the idea that you can set up your own chat bot. A lot of people had sessions on these, and a lot of people will tomorrow, or several people will tomorrow too. Very simple and straightforward. But you can set it up so that your students are going to go in there and you're going to provide them, or they can provide their own, with a basic vocabulary list. And then it's going to create contextual paragraphs based on things that either the AI is choosing for them or their own personal interests. Now this is a big one. It's something you really want to pay attention to. When you're pointing things at your students, it's so easy for us to say, you do this, and you do this, and you do this. But why aren't we saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, right? Because they can make the choices. Whatever they're interested in, if they're interested in heavy metal, they can choose to do heavy metal conversations and readings and all of those things using the same vocabulary as the person who wants to talk about, fishing, or the same person who wants to go talk about, baseball or whatever else it is. So inside of this game here, I'll give it to you here, so you can get your cameras out and we can scan it and give it a try. Bear with me for a second. I'm trying to do two conversations at the same time. I'm going port and starboard both directions at the same time. So just we'll try and work through this together, and I'll see if this works. Again, we're experimenting a little bit together here, but let's see how it goes. So first is, let's go with the port. Go ahead and scan this. It'll take you in. This is built in PlayLab. Has anybody used PlayLab here? Nobody. I love PlayLab. If you haven't played with it yet, it's growing quite a lot in the States. It is a fully privacy compliant and student-centered AI chatbot system that does not train information on your students' ideas or information. and it is totally blocked off, right? So there's nothing else going on inside of there. Depending on your country's rules, in America we talk about FERPA compliance, and in the UK there's different versions of these types of things. Anyways, fully protected. Go ahead for a minute here. This is one version of it, okay? This is one version. I'll give you a second version. It's gonna ask you for some vocabulary words. Go ahead and create your own. If you can't think of any, I'll just suggest prevail, fail, or survive, I guess, right? You can choose your own words. Give it a minute here, have a quick conversation, and try to give it 1 or 2 wrong answers. Go ahead. Is it making you log in? Okay, hold on a second. No? Too many people going at it right now? Try it again. I'll show you a sample here in case, for anyone who's not able to get in, I'll just do my own version here on the screen as I look at it sideways. It should be pretty straightforward. So it says, welcome to the Infinite Context Bot. Please paste in your list of vocabulary words below to get started. So again, if I'm in here, is it working for some people? I'm going to do the ones prevail, fail, and survive. Thank you. Can't even remember my own words. Okay. Oh, what an incredible little set of words you've brought. These 3 little words work so beautifully together, I can already see amazing possibilities for an article. Do you want to do it on sports and competition, animals in the wild, history, space exploration, etc.? So I'm just going to choose 4, I guess, whichever number, doesn't matter. Great choice. So then it's going to give me the story inside of here. Brilliant choice, I guess, here. And it's giving me my words, and then it says, which words from this list do you feel most comfortable with right now? So you can pull that out, and the students can say, hey, I think I know what prevail means, so maybe I'll try that one, prevail. And it says, okay, great. It's going to give them a couple of weak sentences and strong sentences, right? I did set it up so that it's going to choose different words, so it's not going to use prevail as an example here, but gives them a couple sentences. And then the student is meant to write a sentence using the word prevail. So I'll say, okay, it's supposed to be a contextual sentence, right? A sentence where they actually show that they understand what it means. So I'm just going to say, I will prevail, which is not very contextual, but maybe something like that, right? Good for giving it a try. That's what matters most. Now, does anybody see a problem here? Yeah, there's not much really going on. It's just kind of agreeing with me and saying good job, and it's kind of moving me forward on all of these things. I'm going to point out this was intentionally done by me because I'm trying to show a little contrast here. But does this feel familiar to anybody? ChatGPT, Gemini, right? All of these things. You are such a brilliant person. Oh my God. Nobody's ever come up with such a good idea in all the history of mankind. What a great person you are. The siren. We have to be very, very careful because the AI is sycophantic and it will tell you that you are doing a good job no matter what. And why do they do that? Because they want you to spend more time on it. Charlie, I heard you complaining about the tokens running out the other day. They're trying to get you to use more tokens because they want you to spend more money on these tools. How do they do that? They make you feel good about yourself. They make you feel like you want to spend more time inside of here. There's no pedagogical value really here. There's an idea hidden inside, but it's not really a proper thing, right? It's not going to be built out in the way that I want it to go. So I'm going to switch it over to same one. Sorry, there we go. Same one, but the starboard side. You can scan this. By the way, you guys will have access to all of these later too. Same fundamental process, but I changed the prompt to be the opposite, where the goal of the AI is now not to be your friend or your cheerleader. It is to be a support system tool that is giving you honest feedback and telling you when you're doing things right, and not, blowing smoke up your t-shirt when you're interacting with it, right? It's trying to give you the more honest information. So you can play it again, same process. It doesn't change very much here. But once you go inside, and I'll do this as quickly as I can, maybe. Same version, new version, same basic setup here. And I'll show you the back end of this a little bit later if we have time. I'm happy to show anybody on here if you want to take a look at it, but prevail, fail, survive. Did I get that spelled right? I don't think I did. Okay, notice the language is already changing. Thanks for sharing these words. Not, you are the most brilliant person who ever lived, right? Same type of setup here, right? If you have a different topic in mind, share your own. It's still friendly, right? There's no reason not to have your bots be friendly or supportive or any of these types of things, but you're gonna have a really, really different experience. And so I'm gonna say, okay, I'm gonna do, again, new setup here, number 4. Gonna go through the same process, and then it'll make me a story about whatever's going on. Okay, there it is, okay. Same type of thing, so I might say that I know the word prevail. And this time, hopefully, of course we always have the hopefullys when we're dealing with these things, but hopefully, now I'm gonna give a sentence with prevail. It said, I prevailed when I won the game after I thought I would lose. Maybe. Okay, here, nice work. Your sentence clearly showed that you understand prevail. Your context shows that you're succeeding or winning or whatever else it is. So I've got that word, I have a sense of the understanding, and I've proven it to it, and it's gonna move me through that. Now if I give another one that's not as good, so maybe if the next one is fail, I say I failed. It should give me something that says, well, the word is, is that your practice or you're trying to tell me something else? If you're ready to write a sentence using fail, go ahead and give it a try. Oh, okay, it really is totally misunderstanding me. I failed yesterday. And so then it should go in here and start giving me this sentence. It says the sentence is too simple. It didn't show me that you understand what failed meant. Now, for us here, we're fine, right? We get it, we understand. But your students don't understand that the systems are meant to keep them in the loop, right? Your systems are meant to keep them trapped. So you need to have those conversations with them to be able to say, well, hold on a second. When you're out there using a program on your own choice, you're out there on your own ChatGPT or whatever else it is, you don't know what the motivation behind the company or the corporation is that's building these things. Now, some of you are building, on your own campus, on your own servers, really wonderful private ones that are focused and locked in. That's what we should all be doing, right? We should all be doing this and keeping our own SLMs as the process back there. Adam talked about that a little bit later. Hopefully share with him. We are in a world where we really need to take more control over what's going on and not hand it over to major corporations whose interests are totally different than what we're looking for with our students. All right, so you get the idea here. Now, last one is vibe coding. Now, some of you had some conversations or sessions on vibe coding. I never liked this word. This group is great, you're fine, but when I talk to everybody about vibe coding, they're like, oh, I can't do it. I can't code, right? I don't know anything about this world of coding. If you have not played with vibe coding, there is no code written, or not from your side of things anyways. You just describe in very, very plain English what's going on, and you do backwards build based on what the students need. So let's take a quick look at this. I'm going to use Canva. There are lots of ones that are much more sophisticated than Canva. This is a very, very simple one, but it's quick and easy to work with. So if I'm going to take this because I'm running out of time, so I just want to try and move as quickly as I can. Hold on. I prepared a simple prompt that I hope will work here, and we'll talk about it. I'm going to paste it first and get it going because it takes a minute to build. But that's it. So the prompt is pasted in, or they type it in. And it says here, oops, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I should go to code first. Sorry. Okay, so we go to code in Canva AI, and then we get it going there. So it says, create a game where verb is presented either in the past, present, or future tense, and students have to drag the word into a bucket at the bottom to show that they know which tense it is. If they get it right, open a window for the student to write a sentence that is using that tense accurately. If they get it wrong, they get a new word and start over. The goal is to get 10 words correct. So it's going to build a game for them in a minute or two here, and it's going to do all of that work for us. Now, the reason this is important, how many of you have been in some sort of app, Kahoot, or whatever app you're in, and you're like, I just wish it did this, right? I just wish it had that one change. And then you send your nice little email, and they go, thank you for your feedback. We'll consider it for a future update in the application, and then it never happens. But we now live in a world where you don't have to wait for your ideas to come to life. You can simply make these ideas happen. And so here it is. So I've got, this is nothing's wiser than a worksheet to start, right? Will drive, okay, so I'm gonna drag that down. Let's see how it works. Yay, it says nice. Writing a sentence, now I got my part 2. And this is where I really love AI. Because it's not the step 1, it's the step 2, where you start going, hold on a second, now we can have a follow-up with this, and you don't have to wait to get feedback on whatever else it is that you're doing. So when you're stepping in and going into that step 2, now it says, okay, hey, write a sentence using will drive. It says, I will drive to the Hanshin Tigers game. Is there a game tomorrow? Tomorrow, okay? And then I'm going to submit this again. And it says, hey, okay, so I don't like that it didn't give me anything, right? So it didn't show me anything. And so now I'm going to go right back into the chat and say, give feedback after the sentence is written, right? And now it's going to go in and it's going to update the game for me and update and figure out whatever else it is. This is just me interacting at a super basic level with what I'm trying to get it to do. But again, we, the teachers, are taking control back. And we're saying, hey, this is what I want it to do. This is what I want to figure out with everything. So now I can do the same thing. Hopefully, let's see if I can get this. Just give it a sample. Will swim his future. I will swim to the Hanshin. Yeah. That's actually a different app I'm testing out right now. But yes, it is doing that. So great. So it gave me a little thing. But did you see how quickly it disappeared? So then I'm going to say, leave that open until I show that I have read it and understood what's going on, right? And you keep on building and you keep on adding and you pivot and make little changes as you're going through everything.
Can you turn on the show code?
Yeah, absolutely. So you turn on the show code. It's all back here. By the way, inside of Canva, you can click publish, and I've got my own site, and I can just go in and say, tenses, oops, sorry, my fingers are off. Senses, jolt, call, right? And so I can actually publish this, and I'll put this up on the notes afterwards, and you guys can go play the game as much as you like afterwards. But I do this stuff for my students, and I go, oh, here's a little homework assignment, it's small, no big deal. And they keep on playing it. They keep on jumping in, and they're like, hey, I was trying this, and this happened. And so it's like, I'm not having to convince my students to play and learn and figure out these things. They're going out there because I've just gone and provided them with something. And then you can turn it around and say, why don't you build a game? Why don't you build an activity that you can do and show us how it works and show us your understanding of English and all the different things that's going on? So this will show up here. I'll save this and I'll get this up here on the show notes in a few show notes. Sorry, this is dumb podcasting talk. But you can get that going. So do be careful, you guys. Just briefly want to mention, it's fun to talk about things that are cool and really interesting, But you're going to have failures, you're going to have mistakes, you're going to have things that don't work, right? I really like to do podcasting with my conversation classes when we go into them, and I was spending all this time trying to get my students, okay, we got on this tool called, what was it? They changed the name of it recently, so I keep forgetting, but anyways, this podcasting tool, we're inside of it, and they were having so much trouble figuring out the tool. And I'm like, oh, come on, you guys, you get to do this, and then you slide up the language and change the time, and it's like, wait a second, what am I doing? This is not language-focused work. This is not helping them figure it out. So what did I do? Vocaroo.com. Anybody use this site? Oh, got one fan. The oldest edtech site there is. You just log in, you click record, and it records. I just said, just stand around the computer and click record, and like, that's it, right? They don't need to do all the fancy things in order to get their language speaking goals going or whatever it is that we're trying to do. So you will have problems with technology. You will have things that fail. We talked before about these ideas that things fall out. They start charging money for them, whatever else it is. Make quick pivots, go simple, keep focused on your actual goals for your students, which is your actual North Star, right? What is the thing that's driving you? It shouldn't be the coolest new tech. It shouldn't be, what's going on with Google these days or whatever else it is. What it should be is, what do my students need and what's going to help them out? And if you have that driving North Star, you're going to be able to figure out how to help them every single time. Now, I have to be a little bit careful because, again, we're going to come back just briefly to the siren, right? So for the siren, again, we want to be really careful about the sycophancy, right? We talked about that. It's a big problem. But it's also things like shiny tools, right? We talk about these ideas. It's like, oh, I want to use this and I want to use that. And we get distracted. And, we move towards those rocks, and we have our more crashes when we're distracted by whatever other things that are not actually pointing us towards what we're trying to get to. So I do want to mention that it is worth being careful about your reasons why you're making your choices around any of these tools or any of these ideas. What are you looking at? So again, going back to it, we just don't talk to our students enough about what is the value of their education. Right? What is the reason that we're doing things? And your students, my students, haven't grown up in a world where that question has really been asked of them all of the time, right? It's just the system they go through, because you go through school to get to the next school, and you go through that school to get the job, and you get the job, ideally to live a nice life, right? But like, what's actually happening with that education? And in this world where anything can be produced instantly, do they understand the value of knowing things for themselves, or are they still just driving through that path because we have built a system where that's the entire driving motivating factor for them all the way through? So keep an eye on that. That's your navigation check. Are you grounded? Are you pausing when you need to and thinking through everything? Then are you moving in the right directions that are helping things, trying to explore, finding new places, things that work for them, things that can be fun and interesting and entertaining? And yeah, they love the AI stuff. It can be a lot of fun. But is the purpose and the direction going in the right way? Is that what you're looking for? So with all of that, then we end up hopefully at sunny shores as we end up. You guys can get the slides. I don't know if they'll be very useful to you. They're just a bunch of icons. But I have resources for all the things that are inside of there. I forgot. If some of those games and those activities are part of my book, I'll find a way for you guys to give away some copies of the book sometime over the conference. I don't know how. Sorry, I was supposed to. I didn't plan to build it into it, but I've got a few copies of the book if you're interested. Really, thank you all so much for having me. I hope some of this just sticks with you for a little bit longer and you have some ideas that kind of move you in one direction or another. Thank you all so much, and let's go drink. Not too much.
Okay, thank you very much, Brent. That was a wonderful keynote talk. I'm sure we can all agree, with some nice tips and ideas for us going forward in this turbulent times. We are not scheduled for the banquet until 6:30. Of course, these next 30 minutes are officially a break time, but I'm sure we've got time to do some questions. Is that okay? Yeah. So if anyone's got some questions, we've got runners. Okay.
Okay, thank you. That was a really wonderful talk. Thank you. Excuse my French, but this is a real word. Are you worried about enshittification because we are not using tools just for ourselves? We are using them for growing children, and that is a worry that we're pushing them into. So anyway, that's the question. Are you worried about enshittification?
I am very worried about enshittification. If you're not familiar with this term, this is Cory Doctorow. He's a technologist and he does all of this work, but he has an excellent book called Enshittification, which is a process in which companies make something that's really good, and then as soon as they've got a high enough buy-in for it, then they start to take away the quality and the value, and they start to take away the benefits of that, and then it starts to become worse and worse. So pretty much any technology you've ever used is guilty of this situation. So Amazon, Twitter, like he goes through lots of different examples inside of here, but the idea that, things start getting worse once you're kind of locked into the system. So yes, I am worried about it, but that's why I like this idea of our small language models, right? If we're customizing, if we're running it, if we make the choices, and by the way, this is a really big point I do want to be careful about. We are at a tipping point right now, and we can choose, and sorry to be, the conspiracy theorist person or whatever it is, but we can choose to let the multi-billionaire corporations make decisions on what's happening in education. And by the way, we mostly have chosen to do that, right? You see me in here and Google and all the other things. Or we can choose to take control of it for ourselves. And the AI is what can let us do that, right? We see so many smart people in this room figuring out ways to do things for themselves and figuring out ways to get away from those systems. So absolutely, I think it's a major problem, but one of the democratizing features of all of this AI and vibe coding and things that we do is the fact that we don't need to be, kowtowing to those types of organizations that are not doing things that are in the best interests of teachers, of students, and frankly, society at large. Sorry, that's fine. And the soapbox is done. All right, I hope you guys, oh, yeah. Thank you so much, everybody. I will be around. If you think of other questions later, I'll be joining for the whole night, and I'll be around all day tomorrow. So thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
One more time, let's hear it for Brent. Yes, so we do officially enter the next 30 minutes as a break time.